He's a farmer at Blue Dirt Farms. He's also a board member of the Sustainable Farming Association. Welcome to Food Freedom Radio, Scott.
Hi, Laura. Thank
Hi.
you.
Well, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a sixth generation, if I can talk, generation farmer in Blue Earth, Minnesota. It's really the main business I have right now. I started moving when I started out. I moved back and joined up with the family farm, and that's still the bulk of what I'm doing. I've also started a smaller farm entity called Blue Dirt Farm that focuses on regenerative agriculture and selling meat products mostly directly to consumers. And that has been a really challenging and exciting thing over the last 5 years or so. Actually, a little longer than that.
And so you're also a board member of the Sustainable Farming Association, which is holding this week the Midwest Soil Health Summit. So tell us about what's going on
Correct.
with them and what this Midwest Soil Health Summit is.
That was really a catalyst for me back in around 2015, I think it was, is when I started getting involved with the Sustainable Farming Association. They were looking for farms to do host a research and demonstration project involving cover crops and grazing integrated into the farm's existing enterprises. So my family's farm at the time, like it still is almost entirely today, corn and soybean based. So we interseeded cover crops into the cornfield, and then lined up, made an arrangement with a cattle rancher to have it grazed in the fall. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, SFA was a catalyst for that. I went to the Soil Health Summit that year. That's how I found out about this project, and being involved with that and some of the help I've gotten from people in SFA like Kent Solberg has set me years ahead of where I would have been otherwise, getting that education and technical advice. You can talk about technical service from like a farm service agency, NRCS kind of thing, but when you meet with somebody who's down in the dirt literally every day, it's those little details that matter, like how to set your planter, what kind of species you put in a cover crop mix when you plant it. Timing is so critical.
So,
that's
yeah, a while ago on LinkedIn, and because this is kind of why I reached out or I saw this, but a while ago on LinkedIn, you reposted an article about the collapse of insects, and this was an article done from Reuters, and we're losing 2% of insects on the planet every year, which is a catastrophe. 1 in 5 insects are now threatened. Our food system is dependent on insects. The birds and the birds and fish and a whole variety of non-human life forms that we don't really realize are dependent on these insects. Now, why did you repost that article?
Well, I had my own selfish motivations.
Cool.
I have a bin full of some non-GMO corn that I grew, and I was able to source the seed without any type of seed treatment, including the controversial neonicotinoid seed treatment. But I just believe that I was interested in the article, so I read it before I reposted it. Probably a good practice. I think anything like that, like insects or any life that you can see, it's really the tip of the iceberg and an indicator of what's going on at the lower trophic levels, like down in the soil. I think if we see a lot of birds and insect life, it's a great indication that our microbial health of our soil is good. And conversely, if we see a decline in the insects, that's alarming. We know something's probably wrong, and there could be a lot of causes to that. And that's the way nature works. Nothing, there aren't single causes and effects. Everything is tied together. So any change you make on your farm, especially, or other areas of our civilization as well. But I know as a farmer, any change I make on my farm, that change gets there's feedback, and it shows up in a lot of different ways and hard to predict.
Yeah, so you put out there, does anyone have any leads on who might want to purchase this corn grown without insecticides? And you said in some ways that was selfish, but actually I believe that one of the most selfish things to be in this world is to be selflessness. It's almost like it comes full circle and you open up this wonderful way of this door of abundance that I think is our birthright, but we're not quite living it right now for all sorts of reasons that it's very complex. But did you get any response when you put that out there? Were you able to sell that corn?
Not yet. And that's just going to be a matter of getting on the phone and making the calls, I think. Unfortunately, it's rare that somebody, I find this with my meat business too. It takes a long time to get that flywheel turning, but when it does, then you become known, and it just gets easier over time to sell products, no matter what those products are. And I think that article just I learned from it, and hopefully it just repeating those messages just gets the word out there that we should be thinking a little more about these details.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of presentations recently, and so cover cropping is a wonderful solution for clean water. Cover cropping helps prevent nitrates in the water. It helps with climate change. It's such a wonderful thing to do, and yet,
Creates soil aggregates. I think
yes.
that's the biggest part that gets overlooked.
So, what do you mean by that?
So you can think, example I love to use is think of pouring water into a bowl of pudding. That's going to make a mess. It splatters all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Then compare that with pouring water into a bowl of something like jelly beans.
Mm-hmm.
The jelly beans are like those soil aggregates, and what makes them into those little jelly bean-like packets, of course, they're all varying sizes and whatnot, but it's the biological glues. And if we're not feeding the biology in that soil with the root exudates from cover crops, if there's only a couple plant species that are dominating the landscape, we don't get those root exudates, so we're not feeding the soil biology, and we have a really hard time forming those aggregates then and maintaining them.
And there might be something about human health connected to the health of the soil as well, as David Montgomery, the author of the book What Your Food Ate. So I mean, states. So there's this. So we have. There seems to be like an abundance of well qualified, wonderful information out there about why we need to have cover cropping, why we need to have regenerative agricultural systems. And then there seems to be this big market gap, which is what you personally found. How do you sell this corn? How do you, how do you get in this? So describe that. Am I right in this observation that there is a key gap?
Yeah, I think there is, at least to a large degree. When you're doing something different like that, I could just go sell my corn to the commodity market and take whatever price they're paying that day. But I'd love to be able to go out and get a little more to make it worth my while, because it's like any practice where you're doing something. You truly believe it's better, you're doing the right thing, but it's going to be more work because that's not the way the system is built up to. We're kind of swimming upstream, and there is definitely a gap that should be addressed in better ways.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of work and it takes communication. So how can people support you and farmers like you?
Oh, that is a great question. Again, because of this gap, it's not always going to be the easiest thing. The good news is I believe it's getting a lot easier because we're having, farmers have their websites. We're hopefully starting to see some more transparency, or at least some of the tools necessary for better transparency in our food system are
Yeah.
being born or reaching their maturity. So
Well, and I
I'm
suppose
thinking about.
supporting, like you said, the organizations that support you guys, like the Land
Mm,
Stewardship Project and Sustainable Farming Association and the co-ops, and we kind of move forward with all their decisions. So, and I love what your on your website on the LinkedIn thing. You see your job as harnessing nature's wisdom and power in ways that serve people while restoring the diversity, abundance, and synergy to degraded ecosystems. So, yay!
yes,
So, is there
I
anything
put a
else?
lot of thought into those ideas.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I think that sums it up beautifully. That's really what I'm striving for as a farmer. I want to address that human health aspect, and I believe there's more tools that are going to become available to both me as a farmer and customers as well that will help to, shine a light into that area. Yeah, right now though, you asked again about what customers can do. I think the best thing anyone can do for themselves and for their family and to serve their community around them is just take a long, hard look at how you're living your life and ask, how can you better support your life and your energy? And it only pays off in so many ways to yourself and to your friends and family. So hope
Yeah.
everybody
Well,
does that.
well, that's fantastic. So, Scott Hayes, you're a farmer at Hayes Family Farms, Blue Dirt Farms. You want to do your website?
Sure, it's bluedirtfarm.com.
Bluedirtfarm.com.
Order. I have a lot of Mongolitsa pork available on there, as well as a little bit of beef, but I've focused on the pork up till now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for joining us. And thank you for listening to Food Freedom Radio. And have a great week.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right.
Great. Well, awesome, Scott. That worked well, I think. I'll let you get back to the conference and I'll send you an email about